Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos. Good evening. Welcome to you all joining us for the first in our series called Connecting with Your Consulate. This series was designed to connect diverse communities with their respective consulates. I also wish to extend a very warm welcome to everyone on our online platforms. This event is currently being live streamed and will be recorded and posted on our Facebook page for viewing at a later date. For this session, we would like to ask that everyone keeps their microphones muted for the duration of the presentations, and questions will be addressed after the session, and we would like to invite those asking questions to type your questions in the chat, and during our question and answer period, we will use the raise your hand function of Zoom. I will be your facilitator for this evening's session. My name is Carice Whittle-Brown, and I'm the Director of Operations and Project Management at REP here in Canada. I'm grateful today and respectfully acknowledge that I'm joining you from the unceded and traditional territories of the Lekwungen, Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasani peoples whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. Joining us today from the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples are two team members from the Mexican Consulate. Yaxal Canales Lopez, who is the Consul for Economic Affairs, and Alejandra Mendoza, who is the Community Consul of Cultural and Academic Affairs. I would also like to introduce the other members of the REP here in Canada team. On our call today, we have our CEO, Ms. Fiona Bramble. We have Alberto Cortez, who is our art director, and Carly Van Stoke, who is our community and digital engagement coordinator. Carly has been instrumental in organizing and coordinating this particular event, so we would like to extend our public gratitude to Carly for all your efforts in bringing this event to life. Thank you so much, Carly. And all the members of the team and the consulate and everyone who I know extended so much effort to bring this event to life this afternoon. At this point, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our organization, REP here in Canada, who many of you may know as Hair Magazine. So here in Canada, we call ourselves the hair community. And we believe in making space for newcomers to Canada. How do we do this? We do this by celebrating our diversity, learning from each other, and building belonging. Now, I'm not sure if many of you know, but these demographics are from Stats Canada. And of all the immigrants arriving in Canada, 16% of that are coming to BC. So many of you may be familiar with the work of the immigration targets of IRCC. And we know that in the coming years, many more will come. So what does this mean for our community? It means that our job here in Canada is we move beyond meeting the basic arrival needs of our community, and we move to build meaningful and sustained connections between newcomer communities and receiving communities for successful long-term settlement. So what does the hair community do? We offer representation and engagement and participation to our members. And we do this through offering programs. We offer several programs. We offer programs called the Opportunity Employment Exchange, which we call the EOE for short. We offer the Hair Magazine, which many of you is a printed publication, and it's also available online. Hair Sessions, which this is one of, where we offer digital presentations to provide information to the members of our diverse communities. We offer hair labs and many other programs that you can access if you visit our website, which is hairmagazine.ca. How can you help? You can donate to our work, and that's quite easy by logging on to hearmagazine.ca, and you will see the links to donate to our work. You can support our work by getting a membership subscription to our publication, and you can sponsor us by becoming a partner by advertising with us. So I don't want to take up too much time by getting into our offerings, but I want to emphasize that together we can build a prosperous, empowered, and inclusive community. Now, at the end of this session, our live stream recording will be available on our website for those who may be interested in viewing at a later date. Now, without any further delay, I would like to pass on the screen to the members of our consulate who will be presenting. So I will stop my sharing now and allow Yaxal, is it you who will be taking over?
Yes, it will be me.
Okay, so I'm stuck. Please proceed.
Thank you, Caris. Thank you also to Fiona, Alberto, Carly for this opportunity. We in the Consulate are much honored to collaborate with you, with Here Magazine. We are also very grateful for the invitation to be the first Consulate to give a presentation for your audience. I think we share common goals. So I think this collaboration is very fortunate. And we think the work you do is really wonderful and very useful for the community. I will be giving this presentation about what the Consulate does on behalf of the Consul General, my boss, Consul General Berenice Diaz-Ceballos, who is the head of the Consulate. And she could not be here today because had to travel to Mexico because of an emergency. So our goal today will be to explain what we do at the Consulate. We will be giving an overview of the various services and activities we do, some of which you might be not so familiar with. Here we show an overview of all the areas of the Consulate. So I will start with the top one and go to the right. And I should say also that I will have the pleasure to invite a colleague of mine, Alejandra Mendoza, later to give the presentation on the cultural affairs. So let's start with the first one, documentation. But before that, some context about the Consulate. We are part of the Consular Network of Mexico, which is one of the largest in the world, proudly. The Consulate in Vancouver is of medium size. You know, Mexico has some really huge consulates in the United States. The Consulate in Vancouver has a very long history, though. It was established in 1907. So next year we will be celebrating its 115 years of history. Currently, the Consulate takes care of British Columbia, Yukon, and the Northwest Territories in Canada. People that work at the Consulate are both diplomats, like me, members of the Mexican Foreign Service. You can see in the slide that the Mexican Foreign Service is one of the oldest civil career bodies of Mexico. Civil career servant bodies of Mexico. And the Consulate has the fortune also to count with the work of professionals hired locally, some of whom have been working at the Consulate for many, many years and are really experts in their different areas. Okay, now I will go to the broad set of different services that the Consulate offers. Here you can see the most important. Of course, the most popular one is the passport service. We are now close to issuing 3,000 passports a year. Also very important, are the visas for foreigners. I should say this year was important for passports because we started issuing electronic passports on the national level. This was a big achievement after many years of planning. So now the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is issuing electronic passports. And we were provided here at the consulate with a printer so we can give our applicants their passports on the same day they apply for them. Visas are mainly for Canadian citizens who are planning to retire in Mexico. So we give them a resident visa that can be either temporary or permanent. As you can see, the number is not low and is increasing. Many Canadians have discovered wonderful places in Mexico to retire, such as, Puerto Vallarta, San Miguel de Allende, the Mexican Caribbean, Mérida, etc. I would also like to stress the number of birth registrations. I think that it's more than 100. That attests to the strength of our community here in BC. They are now very new Mexican members of the community. After the pandemic, after the closures imposed by the pandemic, the consulate has been striving to reduce the waiting times. We recently finally achieved our goal. Currently, I think they are already optimal, so we are very happy about that. Of course, services is an area that is always and constantly improving. The improvement needs never end. We are in fact preparing a new service that I cannot reveal just yet, but stay tuned. And we will go now to the second branch of the core services or the core activities of the consulate. The first being all the procedures. The second one is what we call protection of Mexican citizens, which roughly means taking care of the community from the perspective of our duties, powers, and functions. We, of course, the consulate is no authority in Canada. We have also limited resources, but still we have a big responsibility to protect the community. And here we show some of the four main activities that we do in that regard. We try to provide timely information to the community on issues of general interest, about current events, also about rights, also about obligations in Canada. We engage also in dialogue with local authorities about matters of interest for the Mexican community. I will talk a bit more about this in a minute. We also create strategies to protect citizens during special events such as the pandemic, such as disasters that BC unfortunately has suffered recently. And we also provide assistance case by case in emergency situations. These emergency situations are maybe one of the toughest activities of all the things that we do in the consulate because it has a very strong human component, frequently related to very hard difficulties, problems, unfortunate situations that Mexican immigrants have to face sometimes. Such emergencies can be, for example, an arrest. In such cases, the consulate makes sure that their legal rights are respected, that they have access to a lawyer. We also facilitate communication with family members when they are in Mexico. In case of sickness, we can visit Mexican patients when family is in Mexico also. In case of death, the consulate provides assistance for the repatriation and gives information to the family members about the procedure to follow. We also participate in different civil legal procedures around family law, for example. During this year, to give you a scope of our activities, we have provided assistance to more than 500 cases, particular cases. One subset of our protection work is a very important program, the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, which is a bilateral agreement between Mexico and Canada, started in 1974. This program allows employers to hire temporary foreign workers from Mexico for a maximum period of 8 months. By the way, I saw a comment about the language that I am using to give the presentation in English, because of the, we know the audience for Here magazine is very broad. That's why we are giving the presentation in English, but I will be happy to answer any question in Spanish later, so don't worry. So I was talking about the program of agricultural workers. This program is very important for both Mexico and Canada. If you buy or have in your table any vegetable, even wine, anything that can be harvested in BC, very probably a Mexican worker was part of the process. So this program also is very successful, but also presents many challenges related to human rights, related to the health and the housing for the workers. 5,000 workers that BC receives every year for 8 months. During the pandemic, this, of course, was also a very big challenge for the consulate. And in the next slide, we will be showing 3 specific cases in which we worked with the government of BC in order to protect the rights and protect the health of the Mexican workers in Canada. First of all the Mexican representations in Canada, led by the Canadian Embassy, asked the Canadian government to regard or designate Mexican workers as essential, which happened. Later, here in BC, we negotiated with the BC government to provide the quarantine period for them in hotels under strict sanitary monitoring. And finally, we negotiated that the workers will be given priority in the process for vaccination. Okay, so that completes our core services, service and protection. But of course, we have much more. So I will now talk about the promotion sections, both economic. I will talk about economic promotion. My colleague Alejandra will talk about cultural promotion. I am in charge of the latter, of economic promotion. We are a young office. We started this year working in this area. I have another colleague of mine, Daniel Romero, who works with me on these services. So we have 4 main goals. I will quickly go over them. The first one is fostering Mexican exports to BC. So we support Mexican exporters that are trying to enter the Canadian market. We provide information to them, and we also find Canadian importers so we can connect both. We also receive requests from Canadian companies trying to find Mexican suppliers, and with the help of really huge network in Mexico, led by the Ministry of Economy, we find suppliers. Second goal is fostering Canadian investment into Mexico. So we visit Canadian companies and we explain to them what are the opportunities to invest in Mexico, what are the characteristics of the Mexican market, what are the characteristics of the investment environment in Mexico. Also, we organize events. For example, this year we organized an event, a business event, B2B, among Canadian and Mexican companies in the aerospace industry. That's the reason we are showing this particular photograph here. Our third goal is promoting Canadian tourism to Mexico. So we have held some specific destination promotion events. Also, we promote tourism in our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and we send monthly newsletters to travel agents about updates in the travel industry in Mexico. Finally, the fourth goal is fostering scientific and cooperation between Mexican and Canadian institutions. Here are some of the institutions we have worked with this year in very interesting projects. So our goal for consular diplomacy in this area is simply trying to connect, right? Trying to find opportunities for institutions of both countries to collaborate. We also this year have a project of improving our social media efforts. This has been led by my colleague Jesus Valdez. We have created, well, he has created mostly different products to connect with, to better connect with the Mexican community. For example, this Coffee with the Consul General is a project around interviews done by the Consul General personally. We also have newsletters to provide information to the Mexican community. We have a podcast that, by the way, is conducted by Alejandra. You will meet her in a minute. We have tutorials online about services. This was one of our main projects, Summer in Mexico. It was set of tourism virtual tours given live from Mexico by the offices of tourism promotion of some of 12 destinations in our country. We also created guidelines for what we call preventive protection of Mexicans. For example, this one is about how to prevent forest wildfires. And now I will have the pleasure to give the floor to my colleague Alejandra Mendoza. She is also a diplomat. She is in charge of cultural affairs here in the consulate. She will talk to you about what the consulate does on academic, community, and cultural activities. Thank you, Alejandra.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Yaxel, y a la comunidad mexicana. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy. Today, I will be speaking to you about the academic, community, and cultural sectors of this consulate. So for starters, the Mexican government is focusing its diplomacy implementation on different sectors, and it includes the public diplomacy, sport, cultural, scientific, tourism, and economic diplomacy. But today I will be talking to you more specifically about the cultural diplomacy. And this is a fundamental tool in achieving the strategic objectives of the government's foreign policy, right? Mexico's foreign policy. And for this reason, in the consulate, we carried out 22 cultural events, which focused primarily on pre-Hispanic traditions, on indigenous visual and performing arts, and gastronomy and cinema. We collaborated with a lot of local museums, with galleries, with community centers, with local cultural centers, as well as with local universities, including UBC, Simon Fraser, Yorkville University, the University of Victoria. So for starters in culture, we like to focus a lot on the local festivals that you have here in Vancouver and BC in general. Last year, we collaborated with the Vancouver Latin American Film Festival in celebrating Black History Month, and we portrayed this movie, La Caja Vacía, and in previous years, we have shown other films with the assistance of INCINE, la Cineteca Nacional de México, and other entities. Another local festival that we really we promoted a lot and we have collaborated with is in the Mexican Canadian Community Association of Victoria, which is led by Miguel Espinosa, a local Mexican national, and he is in charge of this festival. So we are always very present, given it is in our agenda to promote the culture of Mexico, in hopes that people will become interested in the Mexican, in the background, in order to increase tourism as well. And for third, I also want to comment particularly, we've also collaborated a lot with the Festival of Crafts at Vancouver, which usually takes place in Granville Island. And during these last few years, because of the COVID pandemic, it's been very difficult to carry out a lot of these in person. Not all of them have been virtual, but primarily for the most part. But with Crafted Vancouver, we had the honor of being able to chat with Alberto López Gómez. He is an indigenous man who works on textiles, and his work has been displayed on New York Fashion Week and other places. So it was really interesting and beautiful. And primarily, just like the Canadian government, the Mexican government focuses a lot on the indigenous, on promoting indigenous work, and respecting human rights. So we have focused a lot on that area. But even though we work a lot with Mexican artists that are located in Mexico, and even more right now that we have the pandemic and everything is virtual, it's very easy to talk to people now. It's a whole new boom, right? So we also support the local artists. And we had the honor as well to have a conversation with Francisco Higadera. He was the chef from the restaurant Ofelia, which is located very close to Olympic Village. And I do want to add that in collaboration also with another lady, a chef, Cynthia Martinez, who runs her restaurant in Michoacan. We had the pleasure of presenting a program that is based on gastronomy that consisted of 10 episodes with different Mexican dishes. And that is available in our social media. So I invite everyone, if you are interested. We really worked very hard to present recipes that we can find the ingredients, maybe not so easily here in BC, but if you go to international markets, farmers markets, and other places of the sort, you are most likely going to find the ingredients. So yeah, it's a huge project we had in the cultural arenas, whatever. And I also want to emphasize that it was in Spanish. However, in order to include our Canadian friends, we subtitled it in English so that they can also join part of this beautiful collaboration, right, and make Mexican dishes. And as you all know, the Day of the Dead celebration, it was recognized by UNESCO in 2008. They added it to the holiday of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So today, all Mexicans of different, well, not all of them, but most of them, of religious and ethnic backgrounds, we celebrate this day. It really is a reformation of indigenous life. It is an activity that was carried out long before by pre-Hispanic civilizations. So this year we hosted our 6th day of the Dead BC contest. We collaborated with the Vancouver Whitecaps and with VLAC, the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center. I am not adding all the events that we have because we had 22 this year, we had 22 last year, but for the time we don't have a lot of time to be here. So for me to tell you all the lovely collaborations we've done with locals, but I will share a few. So, and Macario is a film that we showed last year for the Day of the Dead, and it was available because of the pandemic in our online webpage, in the consulate's main webpage. And so, and for sure, this year we also hosted a exhibition by Adrian Lopez. He's a Mexican individual who lives in Morelos, and he was. It was a very interesting piece of art just because we hosted it within UBC, and it was like a mosaic of the different schools of the Day of the Dead. So it was beautiful. I think it was very lovely. You can find a lot of these events in our local news page, in our Facebook. A lot of these activities were virtual, so you can find them there as well. So, okay, the community consular core protection. Okay, so for this area in community, we really focused on doing a lot of different events for prevention for people who have experienced fraudes migratorios. For people who want to know their rights as employees here in BC. And we also worked with a lot of different consulates, including the Brazilian consulate and the Filipino consulate, in order to carry out different activities. With the Brazilian consulate, we worked on a activity that we invited the community to send us little capsules of how they coped with the pandemic. And we created a beautiful documentary, which is online. You can also find it primarily in Vilat's Facebook. You can find it there. And with the Filipino consulate, we really focused on the global women empowerment on the economic agenda. So we really, it's one of our also focuses to promote gender equality. So we have been incorporating a lot of these themes into our activities. And then we always host our weekly Semana Binacional de Salud. Every year we have different activities. Last year we focused primarily on the COVID-19 pandemic, how to detect COVID-19, what it is, what is the virus. This year we carried out a lot of cardiovascular activities, as well as how to prevent diabetes. As you can all imagine, during the pandemic, there was an increase in violence in the family. So we did a lot of mental health programs. We did a lot of collaborations with the Battered Women's Services Society in order to inform people who are living in a home where they experience violence, or violence comes in a lot of forms. So we really explained how to detect these problems in your household and what resources are available for you. And then we also have the Semana de Educación Financiera. This year we had the joy of hosting 2 different weeks. We talked a little bit, mostly, although we do touch a lot of the Afore, a lot of the resources available in Mexico for Mexicans. We also do our best to also incorporate how these benefits, local benefits, the RESP in Canada, how do you create a business in Canada, what the regulations. We attacked this program from 2 different positions, from the legal and from the administration viewpoints. So we contacted a local firm who collaborated with us to explain those processes, and then also people who deal more with accountability, with accountants and so forth, right? And then another event that was very popular that I hope to do again in the future was how to invest in the stock market. And we talked about the Canadian here in the stock market, right? We worked with Edward Jones, and you can find it available, I believe, in our webpage still. Not all of these programs are available on Facebook, just because a lot of the places we work with don't always want the material to stay on Facebook, because, things, you have to keep updating the information. So not all the information remains the same always, right? So yeah, this is an issue we've encountered, but we also make sure that we are continuously making events that are around the same realm that we know people want to hear more about. And lastly, we have el programa consular de emprendimiento para mujeres mexicanas. This is something we're doing right now. We have invited people from BC, women from BC, who want to learn more about how to create your own business. We have a total of 39 women right now, and we are working with them consistently. They really, there's a lot of different meetings about marketing, about the legal aspect, like I spoke about, other similar events to the previous ones we've made, but just very focused on what they're doing. So that's the first edition. Hopefully we will make a second edition next year. And then for the academic department, it's really one of my favorite aspects. We do stuff as basic as donate books to local universities, which include the new Compact History of Mexico by El Colegio de Mexico, which is a wonderful little book. In case, I'm sure most of you have heard of it, most of you have read it. It's wonderful. It's a great resource. And then for community as well, I didn't mention this, but we also donate a lot of books by La Secretaría de Educación Pública to families who want to preserve the Spanish language in their household of their children. So those are available in case any of you are interested in that. We still have books that you can contact us about and we can send to you. We also work with, as I was saying, the University of Victoria, different types of themes. We really focus a lot on the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, about we worked one about the seas and the oceans preserving, about gender equality, and so for sustainable development. We worked with Yorkville University in particularly about the Sustainability 2020, Mexico's approach to this, and so forth, and of course about how inclusive democracy in Mexico, which was another event we did, and it's probably available on the University of Victoria's webpage. But I emphasize that these programs are, particularly the academic ones, are very interesting to a lot of people. So I really hope that you will join us in future events. Hopefully, I'm sure that they're not all going to be virtual in the coming, I guess, next year. This year we have opted for this approach because of the pandemic. We want to make sure everyone's keeping safe and healthy. So yeah, next one. And just as a last comment, I want to invite anyone, and I'm going to switch over to Spanish, if that's all right. Invito a cualquier miembro de la comunidad mexicana que nos esté escuchando, que quiera, si tiene algún interés en un programa en particular, en algún, sobre los fraudes migratorios, algún tema en particular que quieran ver en una ponencia, nosotros podemos buscar un abogado, podemos buscar un contador, podemos buscar a médicos, también tenemos muchos programas de salud y demás, como estaba comentándolo. Algún tema en particular, con todo gusto pueden sentirse con toda la confianza de mandarme un correo y yo veré la manera de ver si podemos llevarlo a cabo. Entonces, pues muchas gracias a todos los que nos están escuchando. Como bien saben, aquí tienen a su consulado y le doy la palabra. I give the word now to, I believe it's Caris.
Yes, it's Caris.
Sure.
So, Alejandra, we really appreciate your presentation, and I believe so much of our audience appreciated your the end part of your presentation in Spanish, because we do have a few questions. And right now, I would just like to remind everyone to either type your questions in the chat, and we will ask Yaxal to keep an eye on the chat, because I'm sorry, I'm really not proficient in Spanish. My sincerest apologies.
No problem.
I will coordinate the raise hands. So I do believe we have a question we had a question or a hand raised.
Yeah, Angelique raised her hand before.
Angelique, is it that you no longer have a question, Angelique? Was it answered during the presentation?
Yeah, I still have a question. Do you prefer me to write it in the chat?
You can actually go ahead right now, if that's okay. Alejandra or Yaxal, I believe you can direct your questions to either of them. Go ahead.
It's more about in the cultural department. So I think Alejandra was talking about that. So I live in Victoria, and I founded a Mexican dance group, so we're in the performing arts area, and I was just wondering how the Mexican consulate, like, it would be supportive to us, or is there a program that we can register or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. So you're saying you funded a dance group, correct? Did I hear you right?
Yes, we have a Mexican folkloric dance group.
Sure. You can always, and I would be very interested if you could contact me directly. I can provide my email in the chat, and we can set up a time to speak about possibly inviting you to some of our events next year. We already have a long list, an agenda of events that I will be carrying out with different entities here in BC, and perhaps I'm sure that there's always opportunity for you to join us.
Absolutely. I would love to have your email and chat more about it. We do currently, well, we have been participating in the Mexican festival for the last 7 or 8 years now. I was just wondering if there was any other programs that you managed besides the Mexican festival that is done here. Like, anyways, I can send you an email and we can chat further more about it. Thank
For
you.
sure. There's a lot of opportunities. We do a lot of events, and we will be doing a lot next year. And so for sure, I sent my email in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandra. And for those who are reading the chat, Alejandra has put her email in the chat. I do see another question, and it's in English, so I'm happy to read it for you. Gustavo asks, is there any program that provides new opportunities for foreigners in the area of engineering?
Well, if I understand correctly, that will be a program in Canada for a Mexican engineer that is trying to work here. I am not directly aware of a program I can recommend right now, but I will be happy to check and get back to you, Gustavo. So maybe if you could, maybe I will type my email as well. And
that is a good idea.
Please send
me
an email. Thank you.
Okay,
so
wonderful. Another question from a community member. Being in Victoria, it's hard for a community to travel to Vancouver for consular services. Are there any services that have moved online since COVID-19?
Well, yeah, there are some services that we can start online, but most of our services require biometric information, so it's not possible to avoid, or it's not possible to offer them through only online channels. We have been exploring in the past some ways to get the services closer to the communities that are far away, for example, in Victoria, also Kelowna. And we will still explore some possibilities around that. In the past, I had, for example, been to Victoria to deliver certificates and passports before the passport could be delivered the same day of the application. So I suppose some of the very recent changes benefit this kind of population. For example, the passport on the same day, but also we have been giving powers of attorney on the same day, certificates on the same day, and we will continue to explore opportunities to get the services closer to our communities.
So if I understand what you're saying, for the benefit of our audience, Yaxal, it's that some of the processes can be started online, but it can't, the entire process will not be completed online.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, for example, for a power of attorney, etc., we started communication online, and the process is finished here. And in most of the cases, we can give the document on the same day, so there's no need for coming twice to Vancouver.
Thank you so much. And I do believe the members in the audience do have the benefit of having your direct email, both you and Alejandra. So utilize it. I do. David has a question. David, you can unmute and go ahead.
Gracias, buenas noches. I'm going to speak in Spanish because I know there are people who doesn't really speak English. So, la pregunta que yo tengo para el personal del consulado, en otras ocasiones ya se habían tenido algunas reuniones y se le había planteado la posibilidad de la unidad móvil. Yo estoy en la parte de que es Kamloops, y todas las personas que yo conozco mexicanos y que requieren hacer algún trámite, pues siempre tienen esta situación que acaban de comentar de no tener la accesibilidad tan eficiente que debería tener el gobierno mexicano. Entonces, ¿han pensado en la posibilidad de la unidad móvil?
Hola David, sí, gracias. Bueno, sí, por supuesto, lo hemos pensado. La unidad móvil requiere un análisis presupuestal muy preciso por los costos asociados. Sin duda es algo que a eso justamente me refería con esta cuestión de la exploración de posibilidades de acercar los servicios a las comunidades. Sin duda está en las posibilidades que estamos examinando. Por el momento, activamos en el último semestre jornadas sabatinas una vez al mes, justamente con la idea de que las personas no tengan que perder un día de trabajo, las personas que están fuera de Vancouver no tengan que perder un día de trabajo para venir a hacer sus trámites. Creo que eso, por la respuesta que hemos tenido, creo que ha ayudado. Sin embargo, por supuesto que tomamos nota siempre de este tipo de preocupaciones y se lo transmitiremos a la Cónsul General y seguimos explorando esta idea. Tenemos que, si lo hacemos, tenemos que hacerlo con un año de anticipación para que se coloque el presupuesto. Además, hay una serie de cosas que tenemos que cuidar.
Y de hecho te comento esto porque hace 3 años fue cuando les hice yo el comentario precisamente ahí en el consulado. Y bueno, finalmente, te repito, o sea, aquí alrededor hay muchísimo mexicano. Tú lo debes de saber por los trabajadores temporales agrícolas que hay por acá, pero también mucho mexicano residente ya que está requiriendo ciertos trámites, personas que ahorita no pueden viajar a México por lo mismo de que no hay ni la facilidad ni pueden estar sacando sus pasaportes. Entonces, no sé, esto recuerdo que fue al principio de la administración que ahora nos encabeza, y es algo que sí se requiere. Yo creo que, me imagino que has tenido muchísimas solicitudes de esto, y no sé si, bueno, ahora por tu medio se le puede hacer llegar a la cónsul para que nos haga el favor de ver qué se puede hacer, ¿no? Al final de cuentas, entendemos la situación, pero no nada más es el día de trabajo, sino el costo que les conlleva a ellos el viajar 5 o 6 horas hasta Vancouver para obtener un pasaporte.
Claro que sí. Sí, no es tanto una decisión local, sino tiene que ser una decisión tomada por la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, pero sin duda, ya tomamos nota, entendemos la necesidad y con muchísimo gusto lo plantearemos. Tal vez sería bueno también seguir en contacto para saber un poco de números, ¿no? Entender un poco qué tipo de necesidades concretas de documentos tienen, etcétera. Entonces sigamos en contacto, ahí está mi correo y estamos en la mayor disposición.
Claro que sí. Muchísimas gracias.
Sí, gracias por el comentario.
Thank you, David. I don't see any other questions, but I do have a comment from Angelique, Yaxel and team. She's saying maybe a mobile consulate service could be an idea that the consulate could consider. So maybe, you never know.
That's exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, so this mobile service is something that exists for big consulates in the United States. They take some machines and go to a different city. So yes, that's an idea that has a lot of costs associated, and we were just talking that we will be analyzing it together with our central authorities in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you. I think Andrea has a question. Andrea Kovac.
Hello. Thank you so much for organizing this meeting. I am joining because we organize a puppet festival. I'm joining in from Ontario, and we are actually going to be hosting some Mexican artists this upcoming year in the summer. And I was just wondering if there are some ways across embassies to help spread the word and promote events like that we could potentially have some assistance with. Thank you for the answer.
Yes, for sure. There's a lot of ways. If you're in Ontario, however, we have a consulate located in that province. So a lot of the interchanges will have to work directly with them, given that they are in charge of that area. So if you would like to provide me your email address, I can see the way that I can connect you with the proper person.
Thank you so much. That would be fantastic. Yeah, it's you have great puppeteers in Mexico, and we are very, very happy to be able to find Miguel and bring him here.
Or maybe you can come over to BC. Huh?
And great to know that you want to go to Mexico, Andrea.
Oh, we're bringing a Mexican puppeteer here, but maybe sometime in the future, an exchange from Canada to Mexico, that would be wonderful as well.
That would be great. Yes.
Okay, we have another question. Velea, I do hope I'm pronouncing correctly. Go ahead.
Yes, it's correct. I would like to ask to the consular team. My husband and I recently arrived to Vancouver. We are here for 3 years for a work permit. And I don't know if you have any type of guide or brochure for medical services for temporary residents here in Vancouver, because we recently become aware that I'm expecting a baby. So it has been very difficult to reach out for medical services, a family doctor. And I just was wondering about that.
Yes, I want to ask you first, do you have the MSP?
I'm in the waiting period for it. We are going to receive the cards during these weeks in our email. Yeah. And I received a letter that it's going to be valid starting January the 1st.
Okay, yeah, because I know that when you come as a student as well, you are given the choice as well to buy an insurance through that. So depending on your circumstance, if you would like, I can provide you some more information. We work with a lot of local organizations that can help you with not only health insurance and visits, but other kind of assistance. So if you would like to provide me your email address, I can most definitely help you with that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And also, Belia, congratulations. And please also contact us for the birth certificate. I hope we will be happy to give you all the information.
Yes, I've already looked for that information in your website, but I didn't find anything related to health services. Thank you very much.
Don't forget to put your email.
So Velea, if you could type your email in the chat so Alejandro can access it. And I think that's it for our questions. So I want to extend our sincerest gratitude. This was a very, very informative session, and I'm sure it was so valuable to the members of the Mexican diaspora. Thank you, Yaxal. Thank you, Alejandra. Thank you for all the work that you've put in over the past couple of weeks preparing for this presentation. And we appreciate your collaboration with the Here in Canada team. So after this session, we will be going into our behind the scenes reveal of 2 articles that will be coming out in our latest publication, which comes out in a few weeks. So you're welcome to stay for that, which we'll go into right now, but I know you may have commitments. So if not, I just want to say thank you again. And we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Caris. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Consulate, it's just a pleasure, a real pleasure to collaborate with you and have this window to the community. So thank you again, and it's great to know about the stories for the next issue of the magazine.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting us. We greatly appreciate it, everyone. And thank you a la comunidad que está presente. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy.
It was our pleasure. Thank you again. So I will go ahead and share.
Well, it looked like David had raised his hand. I don't know where he went. Oh,
David, do you have another question?
he might be gone now, but he had raised his hand. That's okay.
Oh, maybe he didn't
Maybe it's an accident.
lower his hand.
No problem.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
Chris.
Sure. So we will be going now into, I will be doing the reveal of the 2 articles. So let me just share my screen. We're really excited about these 2. And you can tell me if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it, Carrie.
Wonderful. So we're excited to give you a sneak peek into the 2 articles from our next issue. These articles demonstrate the very close and long-standing relationship between Mexico and Canada. Tonight, we're happy to have members of our creative team talk about the articles, highlighting the Mexican firefighters and Mexican agricultural workers in BC, how they were developed, and the impact the stories have had on our team and the people they highlight. Alberto Cortez is our art director. He designed and illustrated both articles. Fernanda Martinez Ocha is a new writer to our team. She conducted the interview with the Mexican firefighters in Spanish and translated and wrote the articles. So thank you to Fernanda. Fernanda was not able to join us tonight, but we do have a picture of her so you can see what she looks like. And Hands Across Borders, Fernanda wrote the article Hands Across Borders. Fiona Bramble is our CEO and managing editor. She interviewed and photographed the Mexican agricultural workers in Kelowna, BC, to write the article called Visible. They will speak briefly about their experiences, and we welcome all questions and comments afterwards. Carly should be putting a link in the chat for you to see and read the articles and follow along. So, Fiona and Beto.
Thanks, Carrie. I think we're going to stop screen share, and I'm hoping Beto is
Beto should be on now.
So funny, like when you say Beto, my kid, I can see the camera. He just wake up.
So for those who don't know, Jojo is the youngest member of our team, and he interrupts our team sessions regularly. He's 2.5, Beto.
2.5, yeah. And also he was registered in Vancouver in the Mexican Consulate.
So do you have a few minutes before you run off to Jojo?
I'm okay. Let's go. Let's do this. And yeah, I was gonna say that it was I registered Jojo during this COVID time. So I did everything. I sent everything and they check everything. So they are sure that you have everything ready. So you just go and just sign the papers. And they have like a very good, like you cannot enter the building. So you have to enter a certain time. And there's, like they are very careful with everything. So someone that is listening to that, like, I totally like recommend to do that. And they did a great job.
Nice.
Sorry, can you hear me, Fiona?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
So you want me?
You.
So I was waiting for you. Sorry.
We didn't practice this, obviously. But go ahead.
So we just want to talk about like what when we hear about the Mexican firefighters, like honestly, we don't remember who started this idea because we were like, we should do something with the firefighters. So we tried to contact. We didn't know where to start, like, and I think we tried to contact like the different people. And I think I sent an email, and then I I called the consulate, and I started like just pressing like different extension, and it was funny and interesting because I started talking to Jaxal, and then like we were chatting like for like, I don't know, like 10-15 minutes, and we went to the same university, and then all this started like with that call, and now we are collaborating, and we are very excited for that. So I don't know if you want to say something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, just to add to that, I thought that was such a great story that Beto didn't have any contact at the consulate at all and just randomly started pressing those numbers and made such a strong connection. And it's just a reminder how everything we do each day has that potential to build like really meaningful connections. So that was a really powerful start. The issue that we've put together is our winter, we're a little delayed in production, and it's our winter 2022 issue. And the theme is a day in the life. And what we really wanted to do was highlight people in sort of their everyday jobs that are underscored by service to community. So maybe on the surface, the job might seem banal or, like every day, but underneath that, there are many layers of how these people are giving back to community. And I think with the Mexican firefighters, it seems so obvious. And for those who aren't from BC, Andrea, you're joining us from Ontario, but you also had a bad fire season this year. And Canada and Mexico have a long-standing relationship to bring firefighters to Canada when we are in need. And it's just a very powerful story. People leaving their home to come and support people in another country. But the big challenge was how were we going to connect with firefighters? First of all, they were in a fire zone, a dangerous, very dangerous fire zone. And they were also in isolation because of COVID, because if any one of them got sick, they wouldn't be able to fight fires in BC, or back home either. So it was a real challenge for us to figure out how to reach them. And thanks to Beto starting to make those connections. And one day I got a call from Gregory, who we lovingly call Gregorio, or at least the firefighters do. And he is the BC Wildfire Service liaison with the Mexican firefighters here in BC. And he was very excited to connect with us and help us begin to tell this story. So he was our key, and also he would help translate with the firefighters. But then the next piece was who's going to interview them, and it had to be someone obviously who spoke Spanish. And we had Fernanda join our team as a volunteer, I guess in the spring. And she was so enthusiastic and so gifted. And we asked her if she'd be willing to go ahead and do the interview. And I know it was perhaps a little bit intimidating at first, but she just jumped in. Beto, I think you would agree, and just took it on and did a tremendous interview with a couple of the firefighters and Gregory on the phone. And that's how it began. And the other challenge we had, of course, was photography. We couldn't take photos of these firefighters. So I hope you're all looking at Beto's stunning illustrations in the link that Carly put in the chat. It just makes the article even more powerful, I think. And of course, that Mexico connection that Beto has as well. So that was sort of how that ball kept rolling and how the story evolved. And we're going to talk about the other story too in a little bit, but I just wonder if anyone had any questions for Beto or for me. I can't answer for Fernanda, unfortunately, and I hope we're going to show her beautiful face later. But any questions about the article or the firefighters or the process?
Are these firefighters now living in Canada, or did they just come to help with the fires and then return to Mexico?
Great question, Angelique. Also good to see you, my friend. How are you? They are Mexicans, and so I've learned a lot about international firefighting partnerships. I had a great interview with the executive director of CIFC, which is the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, and they began this global deployment of international partnerships. So everyone that comes to Canada is a national from their own country, and they just come here for that season. So some of the others include the Australians. They just started a new partnership with Costa Rica. So yeah, the Mexicans are now home. They were here, I think, for approximately 2 months, and then returned back to Mexico when things became a little more under control. And then of course the floods hit, so that was a completely different disaster. But yes, we're indebted to them for their support. Don't be shy. Any other questions? Okay, so then maybe I'll talk a little bit. Oh, sorry, Carly.
I have a question, even though I'm on the team, but how did you think of this story? How did it come to?
Well, good question. Beto, do you want to take that?
Well, it was more because the news, I think that was the first thing. It was like, we saw that and we were like, oh my God, we should talk about these things, because of course, as everyone knows, we always talk about connection and multiculturality. And it was such a good thing to tell everyone, it's and for me to be Mexican, and how I always said there is a special, I make this joke that we have a special connection Mexico and Canada. So, it's even when we are not neighbors, we just jump United States and hug each other. So yeah, I think everything started just like that, with an idea, and then everything started just coming together. And then Fernanda did this it was a phone call, and it was pretty interesting because we don't know the faces of these guys. Of course, they sent us pictures and we did the illustrator, but it's we never meet them in person. And now we're excited to translate these. Well, we already have the translation, but to have it Spanish and English and send it to them. So and at one point send in the magazine. And then I hope in the future we can meet them. That would be so nice.
Yeah, I think, and I'd add to what Beto said, I think you have the news stories, but you don't often get the story behind the story, the personal, intimate stories of who these people are and what their own stories are. They're more than just firefighters coming to Canada, right? So that's a lot of the work that we do, is we try to get to that personal piece, which Carly, inside and out. And the other, so to lead into the other story, we Mexicans are in Canada for lots of reasons. And we also, as they mentioned, as a consulate staff mentioned that the agricultural workers come from Mexico too every year. And for me, those are two very different stories that I thought would be very interesting to juxtapose in a way, because when the Mexican firefighters arrive in Canada, it's a sensation. The MPs go to the airport and they're celebrated, and they're on the front page of the local newspaper. But the workers that I interviewed, they're here for 8 months out of every year, and those stories aren't on, well, sometimes they are, but not for good reasons, on the front page of the newspaper. And I really wanted to explore what telling those two very different stories would look like. And so that was part of the reason too. There was this glamorous, sort of adventurous firefighter story, and then this hardworking, essential agricultural worker story. So that was the next part of the process, was to meet with those workers and learn about their experiences. which was also a challenge. I had to fly to Kelowna, which kept getting postponed because of the fires. So all these layers and ironies, and then when I eventually made it, it was really wonderful, but it was a very rushed experience. And yeah, so that's sort of how the next piece of the Mexican element of our issue came about.
I think Gume has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Carissa.
Yeah.
Like the first time that I heard about these firefighters coming to BC, these Mexican firefighters, the first thought that came to my mind was like, are these firefighters English speakers, or how did they communicate with other Canadian firefighters? Would they put like in a mixed crew, or they work in the like separately? So it was my first thought. So I didn't read like the entire article because I just got the link, but I would like to hear more about that if you guys found something about that.
I know a little bit. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Beto, no, go ahead. I know a little bit.
No, but you finish that, and then I will say.
Well, so just with my discussions with Kim Connors with CIFC, of course, there's a lot of training that's done beforehand, and even though there is a language barrier of some sort, it's really down to the system. So, I mean, to be simplistic, it's about the actions, and everybody knows what's expected of them. So when they're actually fighting the fires, it's my understanding that any language barrier is not as critical, but relationship building is something different, and maybe Beto can speak to that.
Well, I was just gonna say something more romantic. I think like we as Mexicans, we moved to Canada. I learned English here in Canada, and I always talk about something that is like, you don't need to know a language in order to communicate or in order to understand. And I think that's something that happened here. There's a very nice quote that we put there, like, and it said like, we are not Mexicans, we're not Canadians or Australians, like we are the same. And that was such like a beautiful thing when I hear this, when we were hearing these interviews and translating. And I have the same question to you, is like, how do you like move all this group of people? Like, sounds like a Torre de Babel, like the Bible, like when all the people get together and they speak different language, but not in a bad way. This is like a good example. And it was like they are devising brigadas, and they have a translator, and this time they have a translator, and also they have someone in charge of COVID. So they have because they were testing, and like if they need anything, so they have two persons like in charge, and they are like very well trained. Like these guys like travel all around the world. They go to like South America, they go to Europe, and they're like kind of like expertise in these areas. So they are pretty well organized. Like they have a schedule. They train. Also, they are like, because this thing like sounds like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in the middle of the woods and I'm just gonna like try to get rid of the fire. But it's like, we don't think sometimes. They are saying like, you see the fire like, I don't know, like 20 centimeters, and in seconds could be like the height of like a building, So it's like, oh my God. So that there's a lot of like things that they have to do to be like safe. And it's kind of like when you travel, or like when we met people here and we don't speak the same language, and you just connect, I know I'm more romantic, but in response they have this translator. But it's like it's a beautiful piece also, because it shows us like how are we connected, and like this is part of that we always want to show in our magazine, this multiculturality and all us coming together, and we are all the same.
Well, and Betty, you reminded me too of the difference between the language levels of the agricultural workers and those of the firefighters, and the lack of supports in many rural communities to support the language needs of the migrant workers too. So like the firefighters have translators and the brigade leaders and liaisons, but the agricultural workers are not only are they isolated from their communities that they're working in, but they're not getting any of that language support, which from my perspective, linguistics is my background, that is key to connecting to your community and building belonging. And so that was another piece where these two stories kind of diverged, was around that language development too. I don't know what else to talk about. Oh, I do want to shout somebody out. And I don't know, I don't think Javier is here, but Javier is, he works for, I'm going to mess this up, but it's the Kelowna Community Resource. I'm close, but forgive me, Javier, for getting that wrong. He was just instrumental in connecting me with the agricultural workers, but the support that he offers them, like in his spare time, is phenomenal. And there's so many people like Javier around the province, around Canada, doing this work in their spare time or off the side of their desk to support agricultural workers around the country. And I just want to lift my hands in gratitude to him and yeah, just thank them for all their work.
Adding to that, Fiona, I was just at one of the farms here in Victoria, Mitchell's farm, and there was a few workers there, and I was able to talk to them, and they were just so happy to actually be able to speak to somebody in their language. And I know a lot of Spanish speaking people see them, but they don't actually talk to them. So I'm just telling everybody, if you have the opportunity to connect with these people, please go ahead and do, because you're just going to make their day. Just, you know, they were so helpful. I was asking them about something, and then they ran away, and then they brought me exactly what I was looking for. And they were just so happy that I knew that we had something in common. And they were just asking about different things around the city. So because these people just work all day and they don't have the opportunity to go anywhere practically. And, you know, if anybody has some spare time and you want to, you know, drive out to one of the farms and just, I don't know, take them lunch or something, I don't know, just a nice little detail there. I invite all the community to go ahead and do that, because these people are helping us get food to our table. It would only be fair for us to do something nice for them too.
That's beautiful,
Yeah.
Angelique. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you, Angelique. That's beautiful. And I think the Mexicans that speak English, or we learn, or we were like lucky enough to go to school or something, we forgot that, you know, we forgot how difficult it is, like when you live in another country, to communicate. Yeah, I talk about this romantic idea about connecting, but that's the problem. It's not about the language. It's about, as Fiona mentioned, like these people are isolated. So you are not part of a community. You don't know anyone. You don't know, like, you don't even have neighbors or sometimes people to talk about. So I think as part of like for us to be Mexican, it's good to be that, and it's good that the consulate is doing this work to connect and help, or paisanos, as we say.
Yeah, and to add to that, I mean, this is our first event with the consulate, and it's been really special. And it just reminds me, as I said at the beginning, like the more we're interconnected and the more that we can talk about the needs in our community, the better we'll serve our community. And even if it seems like there's no reason why Rep here in Canada should be hosting an event with the consulate, there's a reason, and that interconnectivity is just making a stronger fabric for our community. So thank you. That was a thank you. That was a gracias. Well, I don't really have much more to share about the stories themselves. Hopefully you can pick the threads out of the stories, and you can reach any of the team through our website if you have questions or want to be better connected. And on a personal note, I just want to thank the HERE team tonight as well for all your work.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you to Jaxal. That was the first connection. And then Jaxal connected me with Alejandra and Jesus. I don't know if Jesus is somewhere there. Like, thank you, Jesus.
Can we just do one thing before we go? Can we show that beautiful photo of Fernanda and just shout her out? This article was really meaningful for her. She shared it personally with me, how much it meant to her. And it's unfortunate she couldn't join us this evening, but I really want to acknowledge her work and her commitment to the community. So I don't know who's got that slide, but I'd love to just get a little.
Certainly share it right now.
Thank you, Carrie.
And you should be seeing it. Are we seeing Fernanda?
It's just loading, and there it is. Thank you, Fernanda.
Thank you so much, Fernanda. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Again, Yaxal, Alejandra.
Thank you.
And I spent so much time pronouncing your names. Beta was a great help.
Pronounced them
Jesus.
perfectly.
Thank you, everyone. Once again, please remember, for anyone that wasn't able to join us tonight, the live stream recording will be on our website for anyone who may be interested or can benefit from it. I know the session was really informative and can be helpful for so many people. In addition to the fact that the Mexican team members from the consulate shared their email addresses. So that's really phenomenal. And I would like to encourage everyone to jot that down. You never know when you may need it. So again, to our hair team, thank you. As always, job well done. To the consulate, thank you. And to our participants, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is the first in our Connecting with Your Consulate series. So please look out for any others that you or someone you may know may benefit from. And as always, we strive to bring the information that our community needs right to the community. So thank you again, and please have a good rest of the night and keep warm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Now I want Mexican food.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.